I like a little kid last night. I woke up and I was so excited. It was like the day before Christmas or the my birthday as a little kid, and I've been looking forward to this very much. So your parents are helping out with the kids?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, with my parents.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
how nice. That's wonderful. They can be there and help.
Yeah, I'm so glad they're here.
Yeah.
And it was so funny that you were in my dream the other day.
Yeah.
It
What a
was,
lovely dream.
I never dreamt like this before. You sat next to me and I looked at you and then you had some um, bright light coming out of you.
Mm.
They were like either bubbles but or butterflies. They were like shining out of you. And I was so amazed that I could see that, um, because it's not normal that in everyday life that you get to see. But in my dream, it was so real. It felt so real that I could see them. And I think you said that it's your joy coming out of you.
Oh boy.
It was
What a
very
lovely dream.
beautiful. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful.
Mm.
Uh,
Wow.
because
What a
it's also
lovely
so
dream.
new for me to see that.
Wow.
And I remember I thought, oh, that's how you shine.
Yeah. I think you were looking in a mirror. I definitely, I've read your story. I've heard your story on the beautiful seminar you did recently with Harry. And you and I had a lovely conversation. And I can truly say, Ivalo, that you are a kindred spirit. I like that word kindred. It's like my sister in spirit.
Yeah.
So, well, that's lovely.
Thank
Mm.
you for your kind words.
Oh, thank you for your kind words. Oh, that is a lovely day here. I got back from a walk this morning along the ocean and found an eagle feather that fell right in front of me. Love the eagles here with the big Douglas fir, and they love flying up into the top and looking out over everywhere. And I felt it was a little blessing for our talk today. So,
Oh, that sounds great. I have a friend. She lives in South Greenland. We have been big fans also of eagles,
mm,
and we have spent so much time in the nature in the mountains. When I used to live in my hometown, we have had many experiences with eagles. They were flying over us, and I also have so much connection to the eagles, and it's like they were symbols of something greater than us. So
yes, yes.
I love that. I really love, because they are so beautiful and they symbolize such strength and power, and also for me it has been a sign of hope that something something's good's gonna come. Back then, and I used to take the eagles as very serious symbols, but now I don't really need a sign.
Yeah.
to have sign from outside of myself. But either
Yeah.
way, I love them.
I know.
It's like they used to be
So,
an affirmation before, but I don't need affirmations
yeah.
that much
Yeah.
anymore. So
Well, I know that's one way that our
mm,
journeys have been so similar. I mean, here we are from different parts of the world, different cultures, different uh, living situation. And yet we both became seekers and desperately tried to find the answer on the outside, looking for something that would help us have well-being. And the I, I, the more I searched, the further away it seemed like I was getting from what I was looking for. It was always in the future, in something better. It was never right now in this moment. So, and then we both had experiential realizations that took away that search. It just no longer made sense after what we had realized and what we had discovered that was within us all this time. And it was almost like a cosmic joke that we looked everywhere for it, and it was right under our nose, so to speak, metaphorically. And it's lovely hearing how an insight about the very nature of life can settle us down and create a shift in consciousness so we literally begin to live in a different world. And I'd love to hear you talk more about that, Ivalo. I've been very touched. I would never get tired of hearing you talk about not just what you experienced, but what you realized that allows your ordinary day-to-day life be both more ordinary and more sacred. So I would, or any really, anything you want to talk about is
yes.
really fine with me. So whatever you're inspired to talk about, what most inspired to talk about, but uh, uh, I'd love to hear more of how you see and experience the nature of life, the nature of how we work, the beauty that's there in all of us, everyone. So,
um, I have so much to tell.
yeah, 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 you do. And so hard to say it all because
Yes,
how,
it was.
how do you really talk about something that's
Yes.
indescribable?
Oh, I mean, it's a blessing. It's a transformation I have never thought I would experience.
Mm,
A transformation with no effort.
yeah.
It was absolutely no effort
Mm,
to have a transformation. I think it was just only my open mind. I was just open minded, and I had no expectation um, when I had my first insight. When that insight changed how I saw life from second to second. I think it was part of the Enlightened Gardener Revisited.
mm,
Uh, it was from that part in Mette Louise Holland's book I was listening to. I think it was in that part of that book I had my first insight.
Yes.
But it's I who thought that my life would change so completely.
Mm.
And I was so amazed that I was blown away. It was the first insight, the second, the third, the fourth, and suddenly I was in a totally different world. It was in a totally different life. And once I realized that my head couldn't understand what happened. I couldn't put words into that, but I experienced myself as like this physical world, but also this formless nature self, or my soul was experiencing life like two two experience at the same time. I was
Yeah.
there both at the same time, and I could be in both worlds. And I saw that my husband couldn't affect me directly, um, and I could just observe the situation. I could observe what he was saying, and 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 it's so big, but yet so simple, uh, and 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 I was so different. I was so different. I used to react so much with defense or with hurt or something, some different kind of feelings, but I was like numb. I was like so neutral. And so in the beginning, I was like, okay, if nobody can affect me directly,
Mm.
if it's all created from my thoughts, then will I never be the same again? or it was so surreal, but so beautiful. It was in that period. It's about 2 years ago. In that period where um, I have always thought that what happened in the past, what happened in my childhood, what happened in my teenage, what happened in my early 20s was part of my identity.
Yeah.
If I have experienced traumas or sexual abuse, or where I experienced also alcoholism in family or in our
Yeah.
community. So with those insight, I saw that I cannot experience life directly. I can only experience it through my thoughts.
Mm.
So I had totally different relationship with my thoughts. I was like I was out of my personal mind.
Yeah.
It's like I had a
Mm.
step back from myself, and
Mm.
I could watch this Ivalo, and I was not longer the same, because I have thought that I was a victim
Mm.
of life. I was a victim of what had happened, that I needed to repair myself, that I needed to be repaired by experts like psychologists or healers or clairvoyants, or by meditation, by angel cards, and any tools that existed would help me. And of course they have helped me so much. They have
Mm.
uh, lifted some of the burden
Yes.
by
Yes.
doing the job.
Yes. It
But
was a
when I,
lot
yeah,
of hard work,
yes,
but in some ways it was helpful, wasn't it?
yeah,
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 I found that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when I didn't do these practices, I would go back to this. I could have times where I didn't feel good. I was like allergic to being in negative mood or in a low mood. It was in my world. It was a forbidden word. It was a rule that I had to be positive. I had to be fine. It's like a self-made rule where it's not allowed to be sad. It's not allowed to be something. So I thought that I need to climb up.
Yeah. You know, that was one of my first insights too, is that the flow of thoughts are in a cycle, because everything in nature is in a cycle. And there's inhale and there's exhale. And the exhale is as normal as the inhale. And I thought if I got healthy enough, I wouldn't have low moods. I really did. I really believed that. And I would feel like something was wrong when I went down into a low mood, so I had to work on it. And to find out, that was one of the first insights I had during the first week of training, was there's everyone in the world, no matter what level of consciousness they're living on, still has this natural flow of the quality of thought. And it's how connected, how caught up in them, or how real they seem to us, that makes the difference. And that in itself was so freeing, to no longer have to think there was something wrong with half of my experience. Yeah, I'm so glad you saw that one, because that's powerful.
Yeah.
And then how did it play out after that for you, Ivalo?
Well, I have been a fan of many books, many fantastic writers, like you find in the self-help book sections in the bookstores.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
That's only one of many walls.
God, I have spent so much money. So, I like seeing up to other people, like writers or gurus or masters, or
yes.
I haven't realized that I've been one of the biggest followers, even though some of them, they wrote you should follow your own heart, but I couldn't get it. I couldn't understand that, and I thought I was following my heart, but it turned out I wasn't. I was listening to them. I was trying to do their way, how they got well. I was trying out their way, copying them or following them, or and then when
they were seen as the experts.
Yes.
Right. And we had to learn from them. And yeah, that was what was so interesting about meeting Sid Banks, is he hated followers. I talked with him at one point, and he said, Dicken, I don't know how or why, but at one point, 200 people a day from all over the world were coming on ferries over to our little island. Salt Spring is a small island compared to Greenland. Very teeny. And 200 people a day were coming looking for him. And I said, Sid, what did you do? And he said, I told them to go home. I told them that you cannot get wisdom from another person. You can only find it in the quiet of your own being, your own soul. He said, you're welcome to stay and listen. But all I'm doing is trying to point you within to your own wisdom. Right? Do not even listen to my words. My words are not important. It's what you realize when you touch this space where I'm trying to point you. And it's already there. What a different teacher. He was the most reluctant teacher that I had met. It was like, what an interesting person. Ordinary as can be until you look him in his eyes. Oh man, never before, other than my kids and grandkids as babies looking into their eyes, that's what it was like looking into Sid's eyes. It was like this man knows something. And he has so much humility. He's saying, has nothing to do with me. Nothing. What I discovered is what it is inside all of us, each of us. No one is more spiritual than you. No one is wiser than you. I mean, who is saying that? I said, well, if you don't mind, I'll just sit back here and listen.
I remember one of his quotes that says that you are your own guru.
Yes.
And I became, yes, exactly. That's, you have your own wisdom. You have your own access. You are it.
You are it. Yeah. What shifted for you or changed for you once you started to realize that you are this wisdom, and in your quiet it reveals its secrets to you and to anybody who touches that space? How did it shift things for you, Ivalo?
I felt I was whole.
Oh, don't you wish that for everybody?
Yes.
Oh, how long did we think we were broken and needed to work hard to try and put the pieces back together again?
I felt so much home. I felt so much whole. I suddenly didn't need to be around with somebody. I felt so much whole and enough. And I felt this peace so much. I was not searching, I was just there. And whatever I thought that what I needed to be happy, what I needed to be joyful, when I realized that it's not outside of me, it's not among my friends, among my family, among something else, it's not out there. And when I realized that, I felt like I just sat there, and I was quiet. I wanted just to be. I didn't want to do anything at all. Everything stopped, and I gave up all the books I've been reading. I stopped following. I stopped following and copying. I stopped doing how other people are doing the job to have a great life. And my mind got quiet, and I when I'm there, everything seems so surreal. When I began to listen to my friends, and I see that it's a self-made, or it's an illusion. They're reality. I could see their reality. I could see their separate realities, and I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to be that person anymore.
You know?
I was like reacting differently because life wasn't not longer outside in anymore. It's inside out, and and it helped me to understand that I only had to do the deep listening. I only had to just listen and to be there, and not try to explain them what I have experienced.
Yeah.
So I only had to just be there, but it's a new person to be in that situation where everything is fine. Because I realized that I have been the biggest victim, and I was I have been a master of being a victim. So I had to get adjusted to this new way of seeing life, that all is well.
All is well.
Yeah, prior to, when I used to do affirmations, positive affirmation, like saying I am well, always, always well, always well, always well. But it's not really all is well, like here.
You don't feel well, although you're trying to say it and believe it and convince yourself that it's true that you are. I did affirmations, and all of that was one of the many things I was doing.
But I didn't know what to do with my angel cards. I didn't know what to do with my tarot, my books, my and then, because I know they were just noise. They were noise, and it's not me. It's not. They could be the guides, but I have had this relationship where I looked them as the ones that will give me the answers. But they are not.
Right.
They are not. They are tools, and they have been very helpful. But the most powerful tools I began to have, it's through my insights, and they came very vividly. They were like very visual. I had such visual insights. So it can be very small insights, but also very vivid and visual, and it's so amazing when that happens. So and everything just changed, and I also knew that my soul has never been broken, and I don't have to work hard to love myself because I am love. I don't have to work hard to recover my inner child because I am okay. I have been always okay. I have only just made up that because what happened in the past had damaged me. It's just a belief. And it wasn't longer true for me. So
you found something deeper than beliefs.
Yes.
Truer than any belief. That's so beautiful. I wish that on everybody, Ivalo, the glimpse of wholeness, just a glimpse changes our life. When I had a glimpse, I just sobbed. And my first thought was, I've been trying so hard, like I was meditating 4 hours a day. And all of a sudden I realized, if I already have it, if I am it, why would I keep looking to create anything? And I literally stopped seeking in that moment. The moment I realized my wholeness, my soul is pure spirit, and it's connected to the infinite spirit. And you can't damage spirit any more than you can cut a sword through the air and damage it. So there's a part of me that's never been touched and damaged by all the things that happened to me growing up. And I'm part of, I felt like my whole life I had thought I'm a little wave, and I look out and I see great big waves, and I want to become a bigger wave. I'm comparing in my head all the time, and I'm very insecure, and I want to grow. And so I take the seminar on how to become a big wave. And then I notice a wave has a curl, and I got to take the curling seminar. And then that one has rainbow coming off the curl. That's a longer course. It's the advanced course. I gotta take that course. And I meet Sid Banks, and all I heard him say was, look down, look within. You are the ocean. And I burst into tears. That sense of wholeness. And what happened when the instant the search stopped, I felt like I just fell out of my old self, the way a butterfly comes out of a cocoon. I just fell into this beauty. And without doing anything, I found what I had been looking for. And it was right here all along. It was immediately, there was presence and openness and a quiet that's indescribable, so beautiful. And not just the absence of noise, but a deeper quiet and a feeling of connection, just a feeling of connection. And then after that, every time I heard Sid talk, I would drop into a space that I cannot describe, but it was just this. And it was like, there's no me and I'm still here. I loved how you said that, just like I could so relate to that as both. Sid called it the best of both worlds. You're experiencing the connection between the two worlds, so they become one, so neither is a problem. And there's this emptiness and fullness. There's this stillness and this movement, this dance of spirit energy that's just participating in this silent dance. And what a blessing, and what a feeling. And the word that has been coming to mind of late is intimacy. Just an intimacy. Like, I look out at the tree and it just feels like that's kin too. And the birds, and it just, I never knew it was possible to experience the sacredness of the ordinary. I just thought it was maybe in some lifetime after, I was doing 3-week silent meditation retreats. I was gearing up for the 3-year silent meditation retreat. And like you, I had this, and I came home and I took 17 grocery bags of books to the library, and I took about that many more out to a Dempsey dumpster and threw them in the bottom and covered them with a rug, because they were advocating, as happened in the 70s, getting in touch with your upset feelings and catharting them and bringing them into your life and your relationships. And I'd never wanted anybody to read those. It made no sense. No sense. So it was fresh start.
Yes.
Fresh start.
What a relief. What a,
relief.
yes.
I still feel a relief. It doesn't go away, that relief. Relief, release,
Yes.
letting go. And it doesn't mean I don't begin to get involved in my thinking in a way that it starts seeming real again. But at a certain point, the feeling of that compared to the feeling of presence and relief and release and aliveness and love brings me back home.
Mm.
Sid says, if you really see thought, it'll bring you back to the now, bring you back to this deeper sense of well-being that embraces and includes everything that flows through us. Like holding my grandkids when they were little and just watching the flow of spirit energy going through them and this dance of change, ever-changing emotion, and none of it was judged or wrong or bad, and they were living what Sid called in the flow of life, in harmony with life, not fighting against anything or judging experience, not being frightened of it, just in that flow. So no wonder that Tibetan Buddhists call it newborn consciousness. Or you could call it Christ consciousness or Buddha consciousness or our soul or so many names, but none of them, none of them can do justice or can even come close to describing that experience.
Mm. Oh, it's so amazing. It's my mind cannot understand that even today, even though I had insight and I had these realizations, my true nature, but still today my head doesn't say what. But I know, but I know it's true. and it's amazing because when I look back how I was before I stumbled into this understanding, and I worked so hard to develop my self-worth. I worked so hard to
Yeah.
feel equally with everybody, or so because of my beliefs were that I am worth less, less than. I felt so less worth, and I believed it so much. So I worked hard, very hard to improve my self-worth. So, and I didn't know how to be angry. I didn't know how to express my anger, and I just tried to be angry, or I was like, I didn't know how to do that because I have made those rules that you should be angry in that way, or you should set your limits. I had those images of how to do the good job or the right way. So I stumble. I was I was so insecure about how to behave with different kind of emotions, and I thought there were rules. And then when I realized that everybody's is much greater than who they think they are. When I saw that when I saw that I am bigger than my thoughts, I am bigger than I think I am. Not in a I am bigger than anybody, but when I saw my potentials, that all feelings, all emotions, all thoughts are here. They are naturally here, and I shouldn't do these are good, these are bad, but I could be in the emotions, and it was so naturally. My relationship with my feelings became so natural that, like children, they do instinctively, they do it automatically and so beautifully, and they just feel them. And when I started to be in those kind of natural feelings, I felt so powerful. I felt such great energy, like I allow myself to be who I am. And I was not longer in my little rules, castle of rules, or I don't know. So I suddenly was more of me, more of without thinking, just being Ivalo, and it was so relieving. It was so there are no boundaries. There are only in my thoughts. So I felt this great sensation of being able to set limitations of what is right or wrong. That when I see people, when I am with people who is like acting there above me, or if I'm with people who are thinking that I am bigger than them, or how do I say that? I came immediately. No, we are both equal. Or stop. Nobody's better than anyone. So this natural feeling of being able to set boundaries, which I was so bad at, or was so healthy for me, very, very, very healthy. And I didn't have to work hard to get there. I was just there.
Being yourself, being yourself.
It just came automatically, and I was just setting healthy boundaries for me and for others. And I didn't have to learn it. I didn't have to learn it. It was there.
It's been so surprising to me that when we try to follow memory, what we've learned in rules, we're all over the place. It's very confusing because every rule or concept has an opposite. So I would become very confused about should I or shouldn't I? Should I say this? Should I not say that? Should I do this or that? And always just confused, which would get me trying to figure out even harder what was right. I figured one of these two had to be right. I have to figure out which one, should I do this or this? And one time listening to Sid right here on my couch, the way I listened to Sid, almost like I'm taking a little nap. I heard him in the middle of a talk say, you have to go beyond all concepts. And I don't know what happened. It was like I got hit on the head with the wake up hammer. And I went, what did you just say? And I rewound it and listened to it again and listened to it again and listened to it again. And it just kept hitting me and hitting me and hitting me. And all of a sudden it was like, can I see that tree without concepts? Can I see my wife without concepts? Do I ever? but they weren't intellectual questions. They were just questions that were spontaneously coming to mind. And I kept then falling into this space. Talk about coming back to this newborn consciousness. And then I started hearing it in every single talk Sid gave. You have to go beyond the words. Don't listen to my words. Don't listen to anybody's words. Go beyond all the words. Go beyond concepts. He wrote, his second book was called Beyond Belief. Go beyond ideas, concepts, beliefs have nothing to do with truth. And it just was a deeper insight into what he meant by, if you're looking for your well-being, you're one thought away at all times. And I used to think about, what could that thought be? What does that mean? Is it this or is it that? And then one time he said, do you know what that thought is? Your one thought. I was talking to a group of women in a transition house in Florida who had come from prison or who had come from abusive relationships, and they were sort of regrouping before going back out into the world. And he said, you're one thought away from well-being. You know what that thought is? The thought of thoughtlessness. And again, I got a sense of when he says his very last talk before he died, he put it all together. He says, let me again tell you what every human being in the world is looking for. And then he used every metaphor, the talk, the ultimate answer. Oh my God, one of the most beautiful talks I've heard, because it just put it all together. It's sort of like we wake up out of thinking that burdens us into a state of no thought. And he says that doesn't mean you don't have thoughts, but they're free to flow without meaning anything. They're all neutral, the impersonal. It's so funny to feel things without it being personal. And there's the state of no thought, and then he says is a space, pure energy, spiritual, formless, within, pure consciousness, awareness free of the contamination of our conceptual mind. Our senses wake up. No thought, our senses wake up. Then our heart wakes up. He says it's always, truth is always found in silence and a feeling. You put it all together and it was just, so that's it. This is what I now call presence. Sid says it's all thought, and what we're looking for is presence, which is always characterized by this free flow of thought and experience, newborn consciousness, the senses wide awake and wide open, not focused and concentrated on things, and this feeling of intimacy and connection with life. Where Sid says, this is a journey of love that starts with love and ends in pure love.
Unbelievable. I can't believe it.
No, I know. It is. It's unbelievable.
It is.
Can't be believed.
Yes.
It can't, no, even the most beautiful spiritual belief has nothing to do with this. It's like having a beautiful belief about love and holding on to that and think you know what love is. And you can explain it.
It is. Oh my God. When you were talking about space, most of my insights were on space, up in the universe, above.
Oh, but tell about one of those, because they're so, oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I used to do meditation or visualization where when I wanted to ground myself
Yeah.
to the inner core of Earth, I used to imagine that my chakras,
Yes.
I was like calm, and I tried to do from my root chakra. I do imagine that I'm going down to the inner core of to the Earth, and then I make a hook, or I don't know, I attach myself.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of where to visualize, so I can be in the present
Mm, mm.
or in the now, or that I can have Earth connection, so I can be here and now. So I used to do that when I feel I'm not having a crown. So it was after my first insight that I tried to do that visualization,
Mm.
and I tried it, and I thought it will work as normal as I used to do, but this time I couldn't do that kind of visualization because I became formless.
Mm.
Um, there are no place to get attached or to find this.
Yeah. Nothing to hold on to.
No, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I flew from Earth out of Earth, and then I was in the space, and then the Earth became small. There were many small Earth, and they were like balls,
Mm.
and they got into me, my body, and like the size of my other chakras.
Yeah.
But they came out again, and then I was like, what's going on? And then they said, and I remember asking, I need to have my fundaments, I need to
Mm.
have my basic, or I need to have this, because I have built this fundaments, my life, um, my identity, the things I've been working hard to have a great life. What about that? I need my fundaments. I need my
Yeah.
grounding, or my, and then I got an answer. Um, it's never lost.
Mm.
It will always be there. If you need that, you can take that back. And it's there. I gave up my identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave up my former identity.
The woman formerly known as.
Yes. And I wasn't longer afraid that I'm not gonna lose that.
Yeah.
And it will never go away. It will never be lost. It will always be there. But I don't have to be attached to that.
Yeah.
And then I was just there in the space, away from Earth, just looking at Earth. And then I felt that I became more and more tiny cell, or I became so small,
Yeah.
like a cell or an atom.
Mm.
Uh, I was invisible, but I know that I was there, even though I was invisible.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
then I became nothing but this tiny cell, and this connection to everything um, started, or I felt that I became with everything
Yeah.
because I became nothing.
Yeah. It's such a paradox.
Yes.
I loved how you said it, Ivalo. One time you said, I was like a drop in the ocean and the ocean in the drop.
Mm.
Oh, Paradox is the language of spirit.
Yeah.
It's both and neither and it's just empty but full.
Yes. And I felt so um, nothing. I felt so nothing. I felt this
Yeah.
nothing.
No thingness.
And also I had to like understand that even though I am nothing, that but I became whole with everything.
Mm.
So it was also such a transition experiencing that, because in that nothingness there are no struggle, there are no
Yeah.
thing to do except just be there and be that. So it's like having a being told that stop, just stop,
Yeah, just stop.
stop.
Yeah. Just stop. That's a beautiful teaching right there, is just stop. And when we stop searching, trying, efforting, looking, trying to get somewhere other than this, then our oceanness reveals itself. And it's like, how did I think as a wave I could lose the ocean? And I needed to hold on to it. And I had to affirm it. It's who I am. Yes. I like this notion of I can use my intellect. It's fun. I watch my grandkids develop an intellect, which means they start developing a memory and I can remember my grandson when he was like a year old sitting on my lap, and he's very active, but he sat there quietly for half an hour with me looking out the window, and every time he saw a bird, he'd go, bird, bird. And every time with as much wonder and awe and enthusiasm and joy, and then seeing that he can label things so that he can communicate, and how beautiful that our intellect can hold on to concepts and store them in memory, and that we can draw on that memory, and we can have memories of, I can go, I loved our last talk, Ivalo, it was so beautiful, and be able to enjoy the intellect. But then what Sid said is that the intellect is just a tool that can be used wisely or unwisely, and it's part of our evolutionary development. Thank God we can communicate and hold memory. And the purpose of the intellect is to find, to hold, to conceptualize, to grasp, to hold on to. But the world of wisdom is the opposite. It's then when I start misusing my intellect, I'm holding on to thoughts and ideas and beliefs that start creating tension, stress, and upset. And how beautiful this system works. And that feeling then says nothing about the world. It's a wake up that we're holding thought in a way that burdens, and falling beyond all thought into this great nothingness. And then the experience of coming to our senses and coming alive and experience our hearts open wide, and we start embracing and allowing and accepting. It's just a dance. And then Sid says you get really good at going back and forth between those two worlds. There's no conflict. And when in doubt, wisdom knows when and how to use the intellect wisely. The intellect can't figure out how to use itself wisely, and the intellect can never conceive of anything beyond itself. So falling out of my intellect, I fall out of shoulds and judgments and rules and beliefs of limitation, which every belief is, into an unlimited, open, full of possibilities, full of the new and fresh, which one time says that that's all we're doing is we get stale when we get caught up in old thinking, and we can only find the new by letting go of the old. And then we discover it's always right here, the new and fresh, the eternal fountain. And it's always, always creating new and fresh life.
Oh, I wish that for everybody.
I know. Everybody. Well, I love how it's spreading now in more ways than we realize. That's another thing that I learned from Sid, and I had a very, very powerful insight about that, is that when we fall out of self, we fall into this unified space, field, energy, spirit. It's all one, it's all whole, everything is a part of it. And it's like, and my insight was, it's like an ecosystem. And so as we drop out of thoughts that burden, and this divine wisdom lifts our spirits and allows new and fresh to come through us into the world, we are literally raising the level of consciousness, not just of ourselves, which begins to immediately have an impact on the people around us, our friends and family. Oh my God, my family. Just loving presence alone changed the ecosystem of our family. But then Sid says it also has an impact on the whole. So if one part of an ecosystem gets healthier, it immediately affects the whole. So he says, once we realize this, in a sense, we have a new responsibility to help raise the overall level of consciousness of humanity. And it's not a personal thing, it's not ego. It's when we're not there, we literally are bringing more consciousness into the world to help create a healthier world universe. We have an impact on things everywhere in the world, right? The flap of a butterfly's wing on this side of the world affects people on the other side of the world is literally true when we begin to get a sense of wholeness, of being part of a system rather than separate from this divine system.
I am so happy that it's unstoppable.
Yes.
It's unstoppable.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that it's unstoppable. It cannot be stopped. and especially in the beginning, after my first insight, when I tried realize that this understanding, I was jumping, I was so accelerated that it couldn't be any faster. I was in a hurry. Everybody should understand this, and today I'm more relaxed because I know it's unstoppable.
Yeah.
Without my help. So all I want is, for example, here in Greenland, that if people can see their own beauty, that their identity is not their past. There will be so much relief from victim mentality or blaming mentality. And and they don't have to figure it out. They don't have to figure that out.
Yeah.
And I know that they are doing hard jobs, doing great jobs to figure it out
Yeah.
intellectually, and
Yeah. Yeah.
of course it helps in somehow. But when I see this, how this understanding can be helpful, is that everything they need is inside of themselves, and that happiness is not only in the future or when they die, or but it's always here and now, and and truly this is my experience. Here is heaven on earth.
Mm.
When I am in a
Yeah.
in a high state of mind,
Yeah.
I see that clearly, and I am often up there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know when I'm in a low state of mind, I can't see that most of the time. But when I'm up there, I see so much clarity. And in 20, 15 years, I mostly have been in this low state of mind. So
Mm.
I know how that feels to
Yeah.
be depressed, to be stressed, to be
Yeah.
angry
Mm.
and sad. This having a burden from
Mm.
past experiences. So seeing this new way of life, um, this illusion, this life,
Mm.
uh, this illusion of life, it's so much easier to be in life when I saw it is an illusion.
Mm.
Um, but it's not only illusion, it's also where we get to experience how to be separate and have different kind of experiences where we get to have where we get to use our free will, but this spirit inside everybody is so magnificent, it's so real, and it's I cannot describe or explain anybody how that is, but I
Yeah.
wish that they will also get a chance to get into that space inside of themselves, that that uh, that life is truly amazing.
Mm.
Because I've been the opposite.
Yeah.
I've been in the darkest place in my life. So
Mm.
and even though I have had these dark places, I am very, very grateful for those, because I experience the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah.
So I am very grateful for all the dark periods in my life. And so and it's so funny that when I realized that there's only the now is the only exists. There is only now.
Yeah.
So it's I didn't even have to forgive anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't have to work on to forgive. So it
Yeah. No
was
more
just
work.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very different world. It's, yeah, I love what you were saying about it being unstoppable. You know, it's like the universe is expanding. You can't stop it. It's unstoppable. it's this stillness, and then there's this movement. In Hinduism, it's Shiva and Shakti, and they go together. Sid says all truth is found in silence and a feeling. In one of the lost gospels, Jesus says it's a rest and a movement. And that movement is unstoppable. It's the creative energy of life. And my sense is when we fall out of holding, grasping, trying, efforting, then we begin to experience this flow of energy. And by nature, it expands. Like if you light a match, the energy in that light expands. So light has been used as the metaphor for our soul, for consciousness. Go to the light, see the light, be the light. You are the light. Lighten up. How many times was I told that? All that thinking made me very serious. Lighten up. And then there's this. We align, that's what I think of as being in harmony with or aligning ourselves with nature itself, our true nature. So that I started to realize, even when I'm really upset, if I'm in my intellect, the feeling keeps contracting and is painful. And when I drop out of concept and I'm like a baby, the feeling, because it's pure energy, expands. And I had this insight, every feeling is love in disguise. It's all love. It's not love as opposed to. It's love is the very essence in nature. It's the radiance of our being, of life itself. And I watch clients who have been so anxious, well, like you and I were, so insecure, so caught in the weight of our thinking and so believing the truth of that low thinking. And then to see people, to experience, and then to see people become waking up to the fact of thought and becoming unburdened, resting in wide open senses, which is enjoyment. So the peace of being unburdened, the enjoyment of opening and sensory aliveness, and then this deeper flow of the recognition, feeling recognition of our true unity and with life already is love, is intimacy. As Sid says, it's total. So it has to be love. It embraces and includes everything because everything is that. Right? Form is a temporary condensation of that. The nature of energy when it's not held is to expand, to be a light unto the world, and the light overcomes darkness, and all that good stuff is true. It's true. How do you stop the expansion of the universe? And we can resist it and fight it and hold against it and be frightened of letting go. And then we discover when we do, we're lifted and we fly. We all soar. We're all eagles at heart, right? We soar. We get a higher view of life, and it's beautiful. We're both the mouse on the ground and the ego in the air simultaneously, scurrying around trying to survive. And then there's the
Also, so very human if we get frightened of to let go. But there's nothing to be afraid of, um, unless if I believe that there is something to be afraid of. So And when I just let go, I was just there in the space, or when I in my inside, when I fell from the mountain, I thought that I would land and die. I would just splash on the ground and just die. But I didn't experience that. I experienced just floating on air. I was floating on air. I didn't fall down. So I have thought that when I let go, I will die. But I didn't die. I just
Oh,
felt this enormous freedom.
hmm.
I felt this enormous peace. Uh, and it just, what? I didn't die?
Yeah, that's
uh,
a surprise, isn't
yes.
it?
uh, and and it was just a delicious feeling of being there, doing nothing,
Yeah,
and just enjoying being there, just
mm,
being alive, and 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 nowhere to go. I had nowhere
yeah,
to go. I only had
yeah,
to be there and experience this freedom and this um, silence and enjoyment and
yeah, yeah,
really presence of being there. And I could look back and see how hard work I did to create a happy life, and this another kind of experience where I saw that I already had it.
mm,
So this struggle of creating a happy life just suddenly stopped. And because I saw that I was there, I was already there. All I had to do was stop. Stop. So
yeah.
it's
It
almost
seems
like
it seems too simple, and
yeah,
yet that's what Sid encourages. Keep coming back to this
yeah,
simplicity. You are what you seek.
yeah.
Just it lightens all of us up, doesn't it? And allows us to have all experiences without it being problematic or
Mm,
just ordinary in that sense. It's just freedom, total freedom, freedom to be, to feel, to experience
mhm,
life. And when we're in alignment with it, we never have to worry because that deeper knowing just keeps guiding us right what we need to know. And the intellect, it's not of the intellect. It can utilize the intellect, but it's not of the intellect. So we don't even have to know intellectually to be guided. Right? That's the beauty of this. It keeps guiding us. It wouldn't be called wisdom if it didn't guide us toward greater freedom, greater love, greater compassion, to see people who are suffering and to both feel and know what that's like. Who among us hasn't been caught up and held and suffered the burden of our thinking and experience, and but it simultaneously just experiencing this great love because we know that person is love whether they know it or not, so we can love them unconditionally even in their, what I call, when they're wearing their Halloween mask, right? Right, and seeing beyond that to their true self.
and 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 it's there's nothing to do also except just be there and listen. When I meet, especially after my first time in this understanding, I was listening to a colleague who were suffering depression and
Yeah.
suicidal thoughts,
Mhm.
and I just saw her through all those
Yeah.
bad thoughts, And I knew I had nothing to worry. And I knew that there's nothing wrong with her.
Yeah.
And it was such a new experience for me, because I normally see those symptoms,
Yeah.
problematics, but it wasn't anymore
Yeah.
because they're just passing thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and it's nothing to do with her,
Yeah.
except that she was just caught up in that,
Yeah.
and I was not worried.
Innocently, huh? Innocently caught up.
Yeah, and I wasn't worried. I wasn't trying to fix her. I didn't try to. I only had to be there and listen to that and
Yeah.
listen to me just being there and without trying to fix anything, but just be there
Yeah.
and 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 my wisdom said you can mention this understanding and see, and I said I just learned something new. Maybe it's something for you you can look at. So today she's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
She has seen that.
I think the greatest compliment someone can give us is, "You really see me.
Yeah.
I feel seen by you." People know. When I worked with kids, they'd walk into the room with me, and instantly they would know whether they saw them as damaged or as whole.
Mm.
And boy, would they respond when they felt seen. Just presence, just love, just lightheartedness, just knowing that if I need to point, I can point them to their true self rather than anything else if I'm going to point.
Mm.
But presence in itself is so healing.
Mm.
Unbelievable. I see that with horses and animals. Our daughter's dog is with us for a while, and we love this dog. Has been part of our family. And we get quiet and present, and the dog is right there and just soaking it in, really affected by it. So, well, I've been affected by your presence today, Ivalo. I think this might be a good place to put a comma to this conversation. Thank you.
It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. Oh, I love this space.
Oh my gosh, nothing like it, huh? And to share in this space is the most beautiful thing. Sid called it the highest form of human communication, is sharing this space with another, and just saying what comes to mind. So
Oh.
beautiful. Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
You are lovely. This has been wonderful. Appreciate it.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Yeah. May we talk again soon. Take care.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.